Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the International Brotherhood of Magicians podcast. I'm sorry, the official podcast. My name is Jason Michaels. We're excited to have you here. Well, joining me, I just keep saying the word welcome over and over. Joining me is my co-host Scott Cantrell and Ben Young. Gentlemen, welcome.
Glad to be here.
I'm Ben
Ben,
Young.
yeah, you just because you're waving does not mean anybody can hear you.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at you guys and I'm like, oh, video. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott. And now I'm waving.
And I'm Ben Young, and I'm waving.
Oh my goodness. I love you guys. You guys are wonderful. This is fun. For those of you who, if you're listening, you've never listened to the International Brotherhood of Magicians official podcast. Hey, we talk about all things magic and different episodes. We just do different things. Our last episode we had the an interview with the international president, Mike Dunnigan of the International Brotherhood of Magicians, and it was a fun interview. We got into his life in magic and just we had a good time. If you haven't listened to that, go back and have a listen. But today we are going to dive into some controversial topics. Now, hey Ben, I was texting with a mutual friend of ours, and this mutual friend of ours said that she told you. She said. You should have every podcast episode should have a segment where Jason talks about his pet peeves and gets just way too irritated because apparently it's either I don't know, is it entertaining? I'm not sure.
It is entertaining. It
It
is.
is for us.
It
I don't know
is.
about our listener, but
Well,
um,
yeah.
Okay, so all right. Well, look, I have a list of things. Okay, just for the record, these guys don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I made a list of some of my annoyances in the magic world,
Wait,
and I need some clarification. I need somebody to hear me out because there you got your notebook,
I
Scott. You
literally
ready
have
to?
my notepad. I'm ready to write all these down. Jason hates these things.
Okay, well, if
and
you're going to
is,
make a list of the things that drive me crazy, hey, I was online the other day. I was on the socials and I was scrolling and I read an update from somebody, and I'm not going to give you exactly what it said, but it said something like this. Hey, just did a corporate event for $7,500. I'm so blessed. And I was only able to do that because I use these techniques. Let me help you with your business. And all you have to do is this, this, this. And they listed all these things that apparently by making this post, they're going to help me. They're doing the business humble brag where they don't actually give a crap about helping you in your business. The only thing they want to do is tell the world that they've been working and apparently making some money. And this type of crap drives me nuts. And it's also the type of thing where people, how about, and look, okay, just so that we're 100% above board, I have done the humble brag where you take the picture of the stage and then you say, my office
I
for the
offer.
evening.
Yeah,
and,
I've
and
done.
you know what? Like I'm not a millennial. I'm not a Z. I didn't grow up with a phone in my hand. I have made all the mistakes when it comes to social. So I totally understand. So I'm going to say that ahead of time. But with that said, this humble brag thing that all these magicians do is killing me. And I look, if this sounds like you, if you've ever made a post that says, "Oh, I just made a whole bunch of money," then I'm talking directly to you. And yes, if you think I'm talking to you, that's exactly right. I am talking to you. I read your post and now I'm telling you to stop it. All right.
Jason, I'd like to know how quickly did you buy this person's course?
Yeah, dude, I did not buy a course. It was just this whole post was about, oh, I was only able to do it because I hired this person and then I did this and you can do it too. And that type of crap where they're supposedly just like saying something helpful, but in reality, they're socially inept and they have ego problems and they need somebody to tell them that they're wonderful. That type of crap pisses me off.
Once again, this is already becoming Jason's therapy hour. Um,
uh,
Scott, you've been taking notes. You have any thoughts you want to share?
I totally understand where Jason is coming from. And I don't mind, I mean, personally, right? Can't speak for other people, but personally, I don't mind so much. Super excited to be performing for this group later tonight, da 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 da, because that part of that is marketing and algorithm, right? where I think in my world where it starts to become really annoying is when, hey, just, look how much money I've made, or look how successful I am, or, you know, it's all that sh the showing off stuff. That's for the purpose of showing off, whether you're selling a course or something like that. That stuff, if you're gonna do it, it belongs in an ad. I get why someone would post it for marketing purposes, but they may not be doing themselves any favors. If you're going to do it, put it in an ad, and target the right people. So yeah, that's my thing. Right now, I just took a picture. People who are watching, or people who are watching could see that. People who are listening couldn't. I just took a picture, and I'm about to brag about how awesome it is to be shooting another episode of the I.B.M podcast. I'm going to put it on Facebook right now while we're recording.
And you
Do it.
wouldn't have been able to land this podcast without hiring, would you say the person said hiring people,
Oh
doing
yeah, all
this,
the
doing
things,
that,
all
doing
the
all the things?
things.
Yeah. I mean, it is an interesting thing to bring up because the the humble brag is really annoying. But like Scott said, you have to think about the marketing
All
of
right,
it.
look, you're okay, Ben. You are younger than both Scott and both
Put
of us.
together. You're like younger than both of us put together. I don't even know
Okay,
what that means.
Uh-huh.
yeah, that doesn't.
Sure,
I don't
go
know what that.
on.
So, tell, give me a better approach to it.
Well,
Give me
well,
some
I
sort of a way to do this in a way that doesn't come across. I just get so sick and tired of seeing this stuff.
I don't know if I know the right approach. I was going to sort of open up the conversation and just say that
Yeah.
it does sort of ask this question of what is the right way to do it? How do you, and also it brings up this thing of, are we posting for anyone but ourselves really? Because at the end of the day, I mean, unless you are strictly marketing and you're saying I need to post me working so that clients or potential clients that see my feed see that I'm working, right? So that I have value. But other than that, aren't we just posting to make ourselves feel good and to go, oh, look what I'm doing, and I want people to like it and I want people to comment? So is there a right way to do this that doesn't come across a little braggy? That's why it's called a humble brag. I'm not saying that you're wrong for feeling this way because it annoys me too, but I just don't know what how to do it in a better way. I can say that one thing that I try to do sometimes is when I write the post, I try to write it directly to the client that booked me if I'm able to. Whether that's if it's
Oh,
a private party, just mentioning
That's a good
their
idea.
first name, thanks Jen for having me at your whatever. Or if it's a company and I'm allowed to share that I worked for them, tag them in it and say thank you so much to XYZ company for having me at your thing. Um, because maybe that doesn't feel as whatever, but I mean I still get that feeling of like clearly I'm just trying to show everyone that I worked for this company or whatever.
I just got an
So
update that said Scott Cantrell mentioned you in a post that's also shared to Instagram.
Real time humble bragging on the
Oh,
podcast about
God.
humble bragging. We're
It's so,
meta.
oh
oh
gosh,
you
this.
yeah, Meta owns Facebook and Instagram. That's right, Scott.
Oh.
Oh, I was, yeah, wow. See, boom. I
So
like, I
you're
think I like Ben's approach. So here's the thing. I can't tell you how many times I've missed the opportunity to highlight. Now, part of that's because it's not part of my regiment. Um, I don't post a lot on social like I should. Um, but I've missed tons of opportunities to highlight not just what I'm doing, but to highlight who I'm working for, right? Because there is value. It depends on who you're working for, but there could be real value to them for you to post their stuff. And, but I do like Ben's idea of making it specific to that individual or that specific experience. And you're posting it because you're proud of it. You're posting it to highlight them. You're not yeah, I guess there's some humble bragging going on too, but that's not the primary purpose, right? You're not trying to convince people that you're busy or that you're successful, right? You're simply saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing today, and I'm super proud to be a part of it." I
And
think intent really matters.
but
You don't always know what the intent is, but I think it matters.
the context affects it though. If you took a picture of if you got the most amazing tacos you've ever had in your life and you felt compelled to share it, and you took a picture and like, I just had the best tacos of my life, people would be like, wow, look at those awesome tacos. But if you say, I just had the best gig of my life for XYZ company and I made this much money off of it, then people go, oh, you're annoying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. One is
So
self-centered
it's
and one
tough.
isn't. Yeah.
You want to share what you're excited about, but apparently we also care what people think of us.
I
Jason
just,
primarily.
yeah, I don't know. I just have too many annoyances. Maybe that's what
And
it is.
that was
No, we're not invalidating you, Jason. Like,
I mean, no. What's
get it.
interesting is that the point is well made. That if we're talking, I mean, look, social media. I mean, the term social media marketing is a term for a reason because we're talking about communication about what we do, and if you get paid to do it, even if you don't get paid to do it, if you just want to do more gigs, it does benefit you to show that you're actually out there
doing gigs.
working. I
Yeah.
mean, because it is very much a real thing that that potential clients will go look at your socials to see what you're doing. You know,
Right.
is this person really actually working? So there is a side of it that I guess I just kind of have to, it's like a bitter pill to swallow where you just kind of go, okay, I understand that these types of posts are ultimately, they may not be my taste as far as the tone goes, but they are designed, or at least this person is proactively trying to be a good be a good marketer, be a good communicator, be a good brander. Um, all right, all right.
Like,
But your point, Ben, is interesting. That finding a slightly more creative way to communicate what you're saying, or I think we can all understand the intent. Okay, if you post a photograph of a crowd, you know, then we kind of understand, okay, this person is working or, that, but
They
how
want
do
to
you communicate it in a way that doesn't just come across as, up here's
show off.
Joe Schmo again, and Joe Schmo is going to tell us how awesome he is.
Yeah.
and maybe there's something to be said for you post the same picture that you would have, right? Of the audience, you do the audience selfie, or you do the picture of the stage before the show in the empty ballroom or whatever it is, right? But maybe the caption that you write is different. Maybe you hone in on something specific, like you tell a story of something interesting that happened that night,
There you go.
Oh,
or
that's good.
you say, I really enjoy, I was working on a new piece and it was really fun to do this or whatever, right? Where you're not talking about the event as a whole that you did it. That's already implied because of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an approach people could
You
take.
know, I will say I like very much the idea of thanking someone specific, because if you can tag the person who hired you and that person gets notified that, thank you, Jane Smith, your event was wonderful, and we all had a blast, and there's a photograph. Number one, that notifies Jane that, it's like a remembrance of what just went down. And number two, it also accomplishes what you're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
Yep.
So,
Okay, Jason, that was number one. Check
okay.
mark.
All right. Very good. You
We're
guys,
ready for the
you guys
next.
did wait, weren't you a psychology major, Ben? Weren't you? Is this
I was. Look where it got me.
okay? Okay. You're doing my therapy. I love it.
That's right.
So, I keep seeing this trend. There is a trend because I see a lot of magicians come through House of Cards here in Nashville, where both Scott and I are both based. And I, I don't want to say recently because I think it's been a period of years, but I finally have made the realization that most people who are coming through House of Cards, traveling, doing these stand-up shows. House the theater, the Carter the Great showroom at House of Cards seats 70-ish, maybe a little bit more. When it's really packed out. You could fit a few more, but I mean, when it's really packed, you're talking about, I guess, about 70, right, Scott?
Yep. If it's
Okay.
packed, if it's pretty full. It's 70. Yeah.
So this is very much a stand-up show, or you might call it a parlor show. But what I'm seeing is way different than the way magic was when I was getting into it early on. And what I'm seeing is everybody's just basically doing close-up magic on stage. Does anybody do stand-up magic anymore? Or is it all just like, I'm just going to do my little card trick, or I'm going to do coins across, and nobody can see it? But because they've seen it because they've seen it on America's Got Talent, because they've seen it on Penn and Teller Fool Us, everybody seems to be perfectly fine with it. Like it's a weird thing because for a long time I would see these guys come in and do close-up magic on stage, and I would be like, "Dude, this is terrible." But then what I realized was, wait a minute, is is this perfectly? Does the audience is this what they expect? Because with the popularity of close-up magic, and I would say the popularity of close-up magic probably really started with Matt Franco winning America's Got Talent, where people were finally like, okay, this is really legit and this is perfectly fine. And then you have somebody like Shin Lim who is performing all close-up magic on a massive stage in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I guess I just point this out because I just don't see that many people doing what you would refer to as stand-up magic. And I guess I will clarify this just a little bit further, is that typically when I think of stand-up magic for a crowd of more than 10 or 15 or 20 people, I think of stuff that is visual, stuff that has props that they don't have to be huge props, but they have to be somewhat visual in nature or at least staged in a way that they're staged so that it's easy for somebody who's 30, 40, 50 feet away to be able to understand what is going on the stage. What do you guys
Yeah,
think about this? Is this what you're seeing?
mentalism excluded from that, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
mentalism excluded.
you're
Yeah.
talking about the experience. The experience has got to work for, the whole room equally, right? As opposed to the first two rows that can see everything just fine, but everything beyond the first two rows, it gets worse and worse and worse until the people in the back are like, does he have quarters or are those silver dollars or oh, is that
I'm at that
that's a
point.
lint? That's lint. Lint.
I'm at that point. I can't see what's going on if I'm sitting in the back row of the theater.
Yeah. Uh I think close-up magic on stage is generally a bad idea. I'm not talking about highly produced Matt Franco or Shin Lim. That's a show, it's produced, you've got, video and screens and you have control. But in an environment like the Card of the Great Theater at House of Cards, you probably shouldn't be doing close-up magic on the stage if it can't be presented right. There's certain pieces that can be presented close up parlor, and then there's certain close up pieces of magic, so to speak, that can be presented on stage very effectively. Right? I'm thinking of cards across is generally a parlor trick, but it could
Yeah.
be done. It could be done close up parlor or stage, very effective.
Yes, 100%. Cards across is that's what I was talking about when I was talking about staging it a certain way.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about either doing a close-up effect that hasn't been staged right, to your point, Jason, or just doing a purely close-up effect that's just can't be staged easily in that way, can't be effective. I don't know why a pro would make those choices if unless they just don't. Maybe they didn't know the size of the space, although I don't believe that because there's the size of the space. I don't know. I don't have a good reason for why that is. I don't know. I don't know why those decisions are made. Let me speak from the audience point of view, and then I want to hear Ben. Um, so I think the audience is at House. I was talking to
And
uh,
just for the record, this does not have to be just House of Cards.
no,
I
we're just using that as
specifically
their
said House
example.
of Cards
Right.
because that's where we see a lot of magicians come through. And most of the magicians do a great job. They
Yeah,
do.
that's right. That's right. That's a really good point.
It's just there's a trend that we're seeing.
Yeah, and we happen to be seeing it House Cards. This is where we are, but it could apply to, any public venue, any private venue for that matter. Um, from the audience's point of view, uh, so what is the percentage of people who've never seen a live magic show? It's some huge number. Maybe it's less now than it has been, but I think a lot of people, you asked about expectations. I think a lot of the people in the audience may not know what to expect from the show.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so they don't know that there should be something different or better or whatever word you want to use. And so they expect, okay, this is what this is. And so I'm going to try to watch it and try to follow it. Now, I think if you put that audience member or that group of audience members in a showroom, same showroom, whatever the showroom is, and same audience in a different showroom, and a stage guy was doing close-up magic as opposed to a stage guy or gal, it doesn't matter, but a stage performer doing close-up magic on stage as opposed to a stage performer that's not staged well, as opposed to a stage performer doing material that is staged for that venue. I would wager serious money that the audience is going to like the material that's staged for the venue.
Yeah.
And they're going to enjoy that show better. The reason they don't dislike the first show is, I think, because they don't have a reference point like we do. They just
Right.
don't have that reference. So it's great that they can still enjoy it, but I think there could be a missed opportunity from performers who don't ask that question. And listen, I've made plenty of those types of mistakes myself.
Haven't
So
we
I don't
all?
I don't exclude myself from that list, but it is a question I try to be, intentional about at the very least.
Yeah.
So, Jason and Scott too, since you're at House of Cards regularly as well. I mean, the performers that you're seeing that are doing this, where they're basically doing close up on stage, do you feel like the audiences are enjoying it, or do you think that the show is suffering because they're making that choice from
I
the
would
audience perspective?
I would say it this way. I think the audience would enjoy it more
If
if
it,
the choice was different. I'm not saying they don't enjoy it. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, that has to be, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but for me, that's the threshold, right? Is the audience enjoying it or not? So they're
Mhm.
enjoying it. So I guess it's okay. I just think I think it would be enjoyed more and would be better if, there was more intentionality toward that material.
It reminds me of I've often thought because I've really thought a lot about doing close-up magic on stage. I mean, I created a show
You've
years
done it,
ago.
Jason. You've
Yeah,
done
well, I
it
mean, I
really
have.
well.
Yeah, I've done it produced, and then I've done it. But one of the things that I realized early on was if you're going to perform sleight of hand magic or close-up magic or whatever you want to call it on stage, you can't necessarily do tricks where everybody has to be able to identify something at one moment. Like a playing card is a relatively small object. And if I hold up a king of diamonds, that is a very busy playing card on the face. Somebody who's 50 feet away has no idea what that is. They don't know it's a king of diamonds. They don't because they can't see it. And so, but if, however, um, if you stage it in a way, it reminds me of like the vaudeville performers that you can stage it in a way. So maybe you bring someone up, and even if the audience in the back of the people in the back of the audience can't see it, if the person on stage reacts, that that reaction sells it to the people further back. I remember reading multiple books about this in magic history books where they were talking about who was it that T. Delson Downs, King of Coins. He would do these coin tricks, and coins are even the big coins are pretty small, and so he was selling this close up magic on stage because he got the most responsive people up and they responded to it. And so it did work in that setting. I just think we have a lot of people who are learning close up magic and then they're wanting to get booked
They're
and
wanting
they're
to be
not
on stage.
necessarily thinking about how does this play in a larger setting. They're just thinking, you know, to the first row and they're not thinking past the first row. The people in the first row, the people in the second row react and that's where they stop.
Yeah.
And we talk about the House of Cards showroom, which seats a max of like 70, but to me, it's like full when there's like 50.
Yeah. It
Sure.
feels full when there's 30 or 40. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like 70 can fit in that room. But something that's more close up could work in that particular venue. But then what happens if that person gets booked for a show for 100 to 200 people?
That's a
Right.
good point.
Like
Right.
standard, like corporate kind of thing. Like then that's where they're really going to have problems, I think, right? Because if they can get away with it in that smaller space, but then when you scale it up, you've got to be aware of like the room you're in and the audience you've got, and you have to make it work. I do think about Matt King, who, in his Vegas show, he has bigger things. But for a long time when he was doing the comedy clubs, which a lot of his show is the same that it was then, a lot of
And
it,
hold on, and you know this because you've worked on and off for Matt King for years.
yes,
Okay.
yes. But, and he's even said to me, he's like, yeah, I'm basically doing close-up magic on stage.
Yeah.
Um, he does cards across, like we mentioned. He stages it as big as you could possibly make it.
Yep.
For anyone who hasn't seen, he wears a yellow, well, I'm told he wears a yellow poncho when he walks. I've
For
never
anyone
seen
who
it
hasn't seen
personally.
it, you'll never see
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But that makes it so much bigger.
Yep.
But he does like a homing card routine, like a card to pocket. Of course, with him, it doesn't go quite to his pocket. It gets caught halfway a lot. But that is a trick where he's showing the identity of the card, and it has a signature on it, and it's a free choice from the audience perspective. Or I mean, it is a free choice, and sometimes they pick a face card and they have to sign it, and you can hardly see. But he's aware of that, and so he plays it big, and he makes sure that he shows it around. He really like angles it and makes sure. And then he also has someone, like Jason said, has someone on stage, and their reaction also helps sell it. So he does make that kind of thing work, but he also plays into having some things that are bigger. In that same routine, he's doing a thumb tie, and he's linking onto a chair and all these things. So there is more byplay. But he does make card tricks work on stage for several hundred people with no camera
So,
at all.
I mean, what you're saying is he has given a great deal of thought and
Yeah.
he has learned how to stage something in a way to communicate what's going on. And I just think that probably is where the disconnect is in some of these folks that I'm seeing. Maybe they just don't have enough stage time. Maybe they haven't thought about this because you can perform close up magic for a large audience, but you have to really, really think about how to do it.
And maybe, I mean, it's not true in every time, I'm sure, but maybe it's a new piece they're working out, right? And they're trying to figure out, how do I take this smaller quote unquote piece of magic and make it bigger, right? I mean,
Yeah.
totally give them the benefit of the doubt there. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's about having that awareness and asking the question.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Check another one off the
Is
list, Scott.
well,
well, before we leave this topic,
Oh, okay. All right.
I just want to say, I mean, we've identified, I think, a very real challenge, but I think there might be an even bigger challenge that's in this same vein, and that is the performers that are going to do, living room parties and rolling in the cube zag or the sub trump or the big
Yeah.
illusions
the
in
Yeah.
those.
opposite.
The
Yeah,
magic
so
is
it's
too big
so
for
the
the
question then
space.
is, how do you take a mega grand illusion and scale it down and play it smaller for a living room birthday?
I think Tenyo sells it.
Yeah, I think I think Tinyo is the best bet. It's like, who was it, Jason, that was doing walk around and they were rolling a cube zag around the room? Didn't
So
we?
what you're saying is, how do you
No,
do your giant illusion for a tiny room?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a
I
tiny
think you just
space.
charge more and just do it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So
Hey,
Just have to
I
lug it
know.
up the stairs, right, guys?
I look. I will tell you, I have done. I have been guilty of. I remember calling my agent for a gig one time and being like, "Dude, you want me to do illusions? This room is like the size of a patio." He's like, "Yeah, but you're getting paid to do illusions." I was like, "I am fully. I will do it. I just need to communicate to you that this may not be the best thing." So he's like, "I get it."
All right, sorry.
so
Go
I
ahead,
have
Jason.
one. Well, I've got one other thought
Oh,
about
yeah.
this. Is there a generational thing happening?
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
because I do feel like a lot of the young people getting into magic are gravitating more towards close up,
Yep.
and figuring out how to do shows out of that. Where despite my age, I know we like to bring up my age, but uh, I am a little more old school, and I from the get-go went into I need a show, like, and I went the stand-up route, like,
Yep.
immediately. And so everything that I've ever kind of put together for my show has always been that stand-up space. Not Grand Illusions, but still fits in a suitcase, but it plays bigger. It is not what I would consider a close-up show. And so I just wonder if there's a generational thing. going
Well,
on.
there's also a buyer's thing going on because I think
Yeah.
more buyers are willing to purchase this than they ever have been before. Because not only do you have magicians who are being influenced by things like Shin Lim winning America's Got Talent twice, but you have the buyers who are going, okay, well, this is what people want to see now. And so it's we have no problem with this as long as, as long as they're not getting bad reviews or something like that, then, this is what is currently popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. All right, Scott, you can check that off the list.
Got it. Check mark.
We've got knocked two things out. I think we have just enough time for one more thing, although this one might be quick. So here's what I'm wondering. I know
I'm
some.
so ready. I'm so ready. I like that pregnant pause is perfect. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. He really didn't tell us what he's going to say, so I'm like
It's
ready for
true.
this.
I know some magicians. We've all seen them. Who not only are they not entertainers, I think that they actively don't want to be entertainers. They want to be seen as magicians. And
Ooh.
is that okay? Is it okay to just be a really killer magician and not be an entertainer? Because they're not necessarily the same thing. You can be a monster of a magician and not be entertaining. I mean, maybe you would say, well, are they a magician because, maybe they don't have good scripting, maybe they don't have good performing skill, but I've seen a lot of magicians who are very technically excellent and their magic is massively visual and you would not call them I don't even know if you'd call them a performer, if you understand what I'm saying. So, how important is it to be an entertainer versus just being and I guess the reason I ask this question is partially on the performer, on the magicians themselves, but it's also partially on the people who are buying you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, some of these buyers, they go, I want a magician. That does not mean that they expect they're going to get an entertainer. That just means that I just want a magician. I'll take any magician that is good enough to entertain me or to do magic to me. So does it matter in today's world whether magicians are entertainers or even entertaining?
I like this question. I don't think it's going to be a quick one.
No, it's not.
Okay, good. All right. Well, we got, 10,
You
12
saved the
minutes.
best for last, by the way, of those three.
Okay.
So just for parameters in terms of our discussion here, when you say magician as opposed to entertainer, one of the distinctions there, Jason, is that they're presumably technically proficient and they can do quote unquote good magic
Mhm.
in terms of producing the effect, producing the piece of magic itself,
Mhm.
right? That's what we're
Yep.
saying but they're not necessarily, again, just to use the word, they're not entertaining necessarily. That's how we're defining magician here versus entertainer.
I think that sounds about right.
Okay.
Oh, he has no
Because
other thoughts. That's it.
No, I
Just
have I
to
have lots of
clarify.
thoughts. I just didn't want to keep talking. I wanted to
I
let.
think that there's a lot of ways to be entertaining.
Mhm.
So you can be, there's, I mean, a lot of different ways, but I have seen magicians and I guess it doesn't, I mean, in the past, I would just say, oh, that guy's, or that person, because it could be anybody. I say that person's just not an entertainer. Almost like I was dismissing them. But when I started, some point, I just thought to myself, I don't even know if the buyers know that they have the option to get an entertainer. They're just thinking, we just want a magician to come and, a magish for us.
So another parameter, are we talking about people that are trying to work professionally?
Yes.
That's a
Okay,
great question.
because there's a lot of really brilliant magic creators
Yeah.
who entertaining isn't their thing, but their minds are incredible and they come up with amazing stuff.
Right.
So if we're talking about people that are trying to book gigs and work for
We're
humans,
talking about people who are actually working for
okay.
humans. They're not just trying, they are.
Well, while we all continue thinking about what we want to say about this, I'll tell just a short anecdote. I had a client last year who had said, we had a mentalist at our event last year, and he was incredible, and we're still talking about him, but we really want something more fun this year. And so they
Okay.
brought me in. So they had nothing bad to say about him, but the way I interpreted that was he wasn't as entertaining,
Yeah.
and people want to have a good time.
But he
And
did deliver what they wanted.
he delivered. He delivered. And
Mm.
she said, people still talk about it. But
That's a lot of high praise before they then said, but that's a lot of
but
high praise.
yeah, but that's not the vibe that they wanted next time. They wanted me with my ha-has. So there's
Now, is haha a euphemism, or are you just mean being funny?
and at this particular gig, it just meant being funny.
I see.
Yeah. So I mean that's an interesting thing that happened that we don't always get to hear that we were very happy with who we had last time, but we want something different. We want more entertainment value.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a tough question, but I mean, I'm just, I'm
Very tough.
it is a tough question. So your question about the buyer's expectation, I think, is a really, really important one. Because when you first brought up the idea, my knee jerk was, well, if they're just a magician and they're not an entertain, is it okay for them not to be entertaining? And I was going to say, not if they want to get booked and stay busy. And I think I think I'm still coming down on that point. But you asked about, so my takeaway, or my thought is this: if you want to get booked and you want to work gigs consistently, the normal kinds of gigs, we're not talking about something super niche or anything like that. You want to work and you want to work consistently. I think you've got to be. I've said this from the beginning of becoming a magician, and this might be controversial, and I welcome the debate because I think it's useful. Um,
ooh, he's getting fired up, Ben.
I
He's getting
think
fired up.
it's more important to entertain than to be a magician if you want to stay busy, if you want to book gigs as a magician. I call myself a magical entertainer or a comedy magician. Comedy comes first, magical entertainer is the object. So now maybe that's just because I'm not that great of a magician.
I don't
So,
think that's it.
well, thank you, Jason. I was asking for a compliment, Ben. Thank you for staying obnoxiously quiet.
I
Uh,
just figured I'd let Jason have that
yeah,
one.
Yeah, thank you.
no, but in all seriousness, I think it is a really important question. I think you want to entertain first and foremost. Magic is a vehicle through which entertainment can 100% happen. And I'm not saying you have the liberty of doing poor magic, or that you shouldn't be technically proficient if you're funny, right? I'm not saying that you should depend on funny or charisma or personality to justify doing poor magic. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that if you want to get booked, funny and charisma and personality or character, right? It may not be funny. It could be lots of things,
I
but you've
mean,
got
there is the term mystery entertainer.
absolutely mystery entertainer, right? Exactly. So I'm using comedy as a placeholder there, but there's lots of ways to be entertaining legitimately. Um, I think if you want to stay busy and you want to stay booked and you want people to hire you again and not hire Ben the next time because you didn't have the ha-has, then I think you want to take a note out of Ben's note or page out of Ben's notebook and be entertaining. The other note, I was going back to this and then I'll wrap up my thoughts. The buyer's expectation is an interesting question. You asked it before. My take in my career has always been that when the buyer's hiring a magician, what they really want, what they're really asking for is, we want a unique entertainer, right? And we happen to choose a magician this time for whatever reason. It's their theme. They haven't had a magician before. Somebody said they saw a magician. You got referred, whatever. There's lots of reasons somebody might choose a magician. But my thought is, are they hiring a magician because they truly want to see something impossible? Or are they hiring a magician because they think that that type of entertainment is going to be the most enjoyed by their audience in that event or at that event? And I think it's the latter. Not to say they expect not to be amazed. They want to be amazed. They want to be astonished. They want that feeling if they're hiring a magician. But they're hiring a magician not because they expect a miracle worker to come in and, start a new religion. they're asking a magician to come in because they expect that magician to be entertaining to their group. Um,
Good point.
that said, everything we just talked about around close-up magic and how magic's being presented in the marketplace, it could be that certain buyers just want their mind blown. And to
I
them,
I have, yep.
and the entertainment factor is in their world mind blowing only. Forget personality, charisma, mystery, comedy, all of that is icing, but it's lower down on the list. I just want you to come in and I want you to freak me out. I
Yep.
want my mind blown. I don't care if you're I want you to do David Blaine on the street, right? And maybe David
Right.
is a catalyst for this type of presentation. David purposefully, his character choice, he could have done lots of things. His character choice was to be flat and to let the moment of magic do its thing. And he knew he had strong enough magic to do that. And he actually let his flat character spotlight the magic.
Right.
And so you know, I think would you consider David Blaine entertaining? Personally, I would. But when you look at his character choice, you know, he's not in the traditional sense of being entertaining. He's not, but it totally works. So if
Right.
someone's coming in and just doing the moves, if that's an intentional choice and it's working for them and they've got a buyer's group, more power to them.
Fair, fair, fair. Ben.
So I think that David Blaine, because he is the one that comes to mind when you think about not trying to add a lot of entertainment value. But I feel like because he's kind of an outlier, he's his lack of entertaining has become entertaining in and of itself. Like,
Yeah,
because we know he's going to stay flat, he's going to just focus on the magic and the reactions. That becomes part of the experience.
yeah,
So, kind of an outlier there. But what I do want to say is magic's interesting because it can stand on its own. Like, it can be
yep,
entertaining by itself. If
yep,
you literally just took a camera, zoomed in on a hand holding a deck of cards, and it showed one card, it put it in the middle of the deck, and then it jumped to the top. There's no face, there's no talking, there's no nothing. People will find that entertaining on its own. However,
great point.
if you're working with people, if you want to connect with them, then that is not going to be enough to connect with them. You're going to need to be entertaining in
Oh,
some way so that
okay.
they like you, so that they feel connected to you. That's what's going to like skyrocket how everyone feels about having a magician at the event.
And specifically how they feel about having you at the event.
Correct.
That's
That's
very
that's a
So
very interesting point. The
there is something to
connection
be
point.
said. There is something to be said for stripping away the jokes, knowing when to like lay off, let the magic speak for itself. But if you're not doing anything to entertain, if you're just making the magic happen and you're being a creepy guy walking around at a corporate event, people aren't going to feel connected to you as a human.
That
Like,
you guys, I think you guys knocked it out of the park on that. That both of you had very well made points. Yeah, well done, well done. You took my question, and I feel as though you nailed it. That was good.
and let it be known, Jason contributed nothing to that discussion.
I
yeah,
just
what do you think, Jason?
posed the question. I agree with y'all.
That's convenient.
That was good. Okay.
No, I think that both of you had points that were well stated. And I do agree very much that, I mean, I come a little bit from a theater background and acting background, so I do try to find personally, I try to find different for my performances. I want different textures, I want different layers in the performance. And if that means that I tell a compelling story in one moment and then in another moment I make somebody laugh, to me, that certainly adds to the experience of what I am putting out into the world. I won't speak to anybody else. I'll speak to myself. But with all that said, I do agree that magic by itself can completely stand alone. With that said, there are a whole lot of comedy magicians who work a whole lot because they make people laugh and they're highly entertaining and their magic is good And, when you can make somebody laugh, I mean, that's not the only type of entertainment, but when you can make somebody laugh and, all the chemicals are released in the brain, endorphins and dopamine, all that stuff, those feel good chemicals, then the person walks out of the show going, oh, that was just so much fun. Now, maybe that's not everybody's goal, but I do think that you need to, at the very least, what I think makes the most sense is to very proactively think of what the experience you want your audience to have.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it comes down to. You do you, but think very, very proactively about what am I communicating by doing it this way? And is that what I want people what do I want them walking away saying?
Excellent.
Well done, folks. Wow. Yeah, good stuff. Nice debate. Nice comments. Y'all were spot on today. We're gonna wrap it up with that. Does anybody have any final things that they want to share? Okay, it's been a pleasure talking with you fellas. Folks, this has been the International Brotherhood of Magicians official podcast. For more information about the IBM, visit magician.org. That is magician.org. If you want to learn more about the upcoming IBM convention, which is happening in Houston, Texas in July, it's going to be a blowout and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Magicians from all around the world are converging in Houston, Texas to have a big time. You can learn more about that at ibmconvention.com. If you want to connect with Scott, Ben, or myself, our social handles are in the show notes. We would love for you to leave us a review of the podcast. Just go to your favorite podcast provider, whoever you're listening to us on, and click leave us a review. That way, other people who love the art of magic can find us and listen to us ramble on as well. All right, it's been a lot of fun, guys. I'm Jason Michaels for Scott Cantrell and Ben Young. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.
See you guys. Fun stuff.